Hello and welcome to the SohoLIFF Spotlights. So I'm Liz Farahadi and I am one of the directors at the Soho London Independent Film Festival. And I'm absolutely delighted today to have two industry guests who are experts in the field of all filmmaking, all things filmmaking, I should say. And we're going to be talking today about how to get your film financed. So from new through to bigger, more established filmmakers. Absolutely delighted to have Daria Polunina, who is on the board of directors for Molinare, which is the renowned post house in London, and Athena Mandis, who is a multi-award winning filmmaker. So welcome, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Daria, can you just tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. So as you mentioned, I'm on the board of Molinare, which is a Post Production House based in Soho. So they are very well known for post-production for drama and independent film. And they do everything from audio post-production to picture grading, VFX, etc. But also on the side, I'm myself an executive producer on one of the independent British films, a comedy, actually a feature comedy. So yeah, that's sort of the short background.
And Athena, can you tell us?
So I'm a filmmaker and I also teach film practice at Queen Mary University. So I'm in the process of sort of building my portfolio of short films in order to kind of present feature films that I've got in development. Fabulous.
So Athena, you have done crowdfunding, haven't you? Could you tell us a little bit, but for someone who knows nothing about crowdfunding, what is that? How does this work?
So crowdfunding, that's one of those things that it's very hard to get money for short films. So where does one go? And of course, you do need to make short films in order to develop your craft as a filmmaker, show your work. But just to continue working in the industry, how do you go from nothing to making that feature that you want to make? And so you've got to start somewhere. And so crowdfunding is an amazing thing that's really taken off in the last few years. And it's a lot more than just asking your mates to give you £5 or £10 so you can make a film. And I think in the past when it started, it became a little bit kind of, oh God, I really don't want to ask my friends. I don't want to ask my family. There's a bit of an embarrassment around it. It felt like you were begging for money to make work. But actually, it's an amazing platform to begin talking about your works, to start developing yourself as the brand, because you just don't know who's listening.
We've got a crowdfunding promo from your first one, Southgate to Brighton. We're going to have a little look at this, and then if you could explain to us how that works, that would be fabulous.
Brilliant.
So we're going to go to a short clip of Southgate to Brighton.
We're here to introduce a new comedy short that we've written called Southgate to Brighton. We'll be both directing this in June too.
It won Best Pitch at the Local Film Festival last year. Why are we making it?
It's a story about three lads from second, third generation Greek Cypriots who are trying to get to Brighton from Southgate. And we wrote this on that premise that we kind of felt it was quite funny and reflected where we came from.
We're asking for £5,000 in total. If we get more, that'd be amazing, but £5,000 in total, and we can make this short film that represents us and the community around us in a very funny way.
We think there's an underrepresentation of Cypriots in the big screen. That was one of the reasons why.
It's about second, maybe third generation Greek Cypriots like us.
Came up with this idea. We thought it was really funny for a short. It's about three lads.
For you.
By raising at least £5,000, we'll have enough money to pay for the cost of making the short film.
Cast, crew, a fantastic editor, marketing for the film, and into some amazing film festivals.
Way of saying thank you. We've lined up a list of perks that are for you, and for more details, just go to the Indiegogo website. I think where this is, it might be on the left on the right at the bottom. Anyway, you'll find it.
This short film is the beginning of our journey that is hopefully going to lead to a feature set in the same world. Thank you very much.
It's a film called Southgate to Brighton.
Yeah, it represents...
So that was lovely. Athena, can you explain that to me a little bit, please? Like the importance of visuals.
Sure. Well, it's not just visuals. I think so. Southgate to Brighton was a short film that I and Dino Jacovidis, you saw in the video, wanted to make as a kind of promo to a feature that we were developing at the time. So it was a comedy. And so one of the things that you need to do for any crowdfunding campaign is to pitch your project. And the key thing is to pitch within the tone of what the project is. So it's to know who your audience is. So this is why crowdfunding is so important. It's like it's the first, if you like, engagement that you have with audience. So for us, it was a comedy. And it was also very specific for a kind of Greek Cypriot sort of community that we knew, it was really hard to find representation in sort of films and things like that. So we were working with very clear parameters. So the idea of keeping it quite raw, keeping it quite real to us is something that we thought about how we would do it. So if we were to just sit there and go, hi, we're making a film and, it's about this, and being really serious about it. And I think that would have disconnected with what the project was. Because you're still pitching, only you're not pitching to, say, Daria for lots of money, but you're pitching to somebody for a $5. It's the same principle. So we needed to be consistent. So because it kind of dealt with that world, it made sense to do it in my mum's kitchen. And I think we just shot it on, a camera that we managed to borrow and just set it up, really basic stuff. And I got my mum to come in and out, which is the kind of thing that she would do anyway. So we just worked with our environment, which lent itself to the film. So your visuals, going back to your question, are super important in that it really gives you the opportunity to identify the tone of your film. And that is just so key. It's not only key for pitching for money, it's key for you as the filmmaker to know what it is you're making. Because if you can't kind of grab, put a pin on that and frame that, the chances are you haven't quite worked out what your film is. So it's a really good exercise to go, do you really know what you're making?
That's really interesting. And so that would mean then with each one you have to frame it to within each film that you're making.
Yeah.
Can I just ask, how many of these crowdfunding campaigns have you done?
So I've done 3. Okay. So the last 3 shorts that I've made, they've all been crowdfunded. Okay. Because it's, you also apply to, the usual suspects for public funding, and that is so overstretched. And also, but one of the things I do like about crowdfunding is that you're not waiting for someone to give you permission to make work. And there can be a tendency, I think, to kind of feel like, well, if the BFI said no, then I can't make my film. Or if Genera, and, there's not that many places that you can go to for money. So, the question is, well, if you want to make work, what do you do? And that entrepreneurial approach to filmmaking is so important nowadays, because no one, the idea that you're going to build it and they're going to come doesn't really work. You're not going to go, I'm going to write the amazing script and someone's going to give me 20 million to make it. And they haven't seen me or met me before.
This leads me to another question then. So if someone's doing a crowdfunding campaign, would that be something, if you were looking at funding a film, would you look at that?
Well, I think it depends on what stage of the film you're looking at, because I think crowdfunding is really the initial, and as you said, something for short. If you're looking already at making a feature film, a full feature, I think crowdfunding probably would work at some point, but because of the amount that you require, you definitely need, other funds. And then Again, there are, as Athena mentioned, there's BFI and the public funds, but then there's also a few development funds, which I don't know that many people know about. So development funds actually for the start of the project, to start making the film, and even sort of the initial stage is from your script and, proofreading the script and making sure that it all is, put together before you start filming. And then it goes to, finding either independent investors, or whether it's pitching directly to some studios who would find your idea amazing and then they would fund it.
Cool. And so for yourself, how would a filmmaker get their project on your desk?
That's a good question. I mean, with the project that I was involved in, Love Type D, that was kind of through networking, to be honest. And I was approached basically from my business perspective. Somebody put forward a business plan to me to say, like, what do you think of this particular project? And I think that what they did really smart is that they presented their business plan in a way that me as a finance person could understand it, because I look at the business plans for companies. And to me, it made sense because they talked about the marketing. They talked about who this film is going, who's the audience, who is basically the market for this film, and why is it so different. And they also did a very smart thing of showing similar projects and what success they got. So to me, it looked so logical that I was like, oh, actually, I want to be involved.
That's really interesting, because sometimes as filmmakers, we forget it's a business.
Yeah, no, and again, like as I think as Athena mentioned, it depends who you're also approaching, because if it's just a general, public, you need to make something really fun and, for them to be like, oh, I want to be involved. But if it's, a business person, or like, because you found an investor or something, you actually need, because they always think in a logical sense. And it's, investment in film is very much of a passion project than making a return on your money. Because sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, but the odds are. If you are targeting someone from the business world, or even, bigger studios, you need to make sure that it works on a bigger level. Yeah. Excellent.
And how important is it to you for things like having a star? Does a name make a difference? Does that matter?
I think it's not important to me personally, but eventually it's very hard to sell a film without a star attached. So I think because of the competition, because of the amount of content currently being produced, well, first of all, script is very important for sure. You need to nail the script before you can actually start the process, because you avoid many reshoots, and you avoid, spending more money than was initially planned. But then if you have somebody, like, even if it's a rising star, it is quite important, because it's not only about, okay, I'm going to make the film, but then it's trying to make sure that the audience comes and sees it. And I mean, this is quite sad, but regardless of how great your idea is, if you don't have, and again, like, it depends, if you want it to be seen by a larger audience, you need to attract them by something where, oh, I don't know, this was written by somebody really famous, or we have this actor who decided to be part of the project. And to be honest, a lot of them, I've seen some short films where you would find, famous actors and actresses, because it's a community, so they all want to help each other. So sometimes they would just love your idea and they would actually come and do it, with you or for you.
We're going to go to a clip of the film Love Type D that you worked on.
Yes.
So you were an executive producer on this. Okay, so we're going to have a little look at this.
Frankie? Yes? I'm Wilbur Asquith-Lacey, Thomas's brother. I didn't know Thomas had a brother. I just came to give you a message from Thomas. He's a bit tied up, so he can't make it to lunch. And, he's not really looking for a relationship right now.
Don't you think it's strange that every time we like a man, he rejects us? I think there's a more sinister reason why John the intern just blanked you.
Researchers at the Oxford Institute of Genetics have discovered a gene which affects your love life. People with the D-type gene will suffer chronic failure and rejection, according to scientists.
People can be split into two categories. The dumpers, well, they end all their relationships. And the dumpees, well, they always get dumped.
If he's going to dump you, wouldn't you rather know now, instead of waiting 3 years and paying his share of the rent while he's in grad school? Your time is precious. That's why at Epigenica, we offer the first and only 100% accurate Type D test.
I want you to do this test with me.
Oh, I don't know about that. Red Cross.
Oh, no. The dumpy gene, we have the dumpy gene. What's the point of going out with someone if you already know how it's going to end?
Well, you could focus on other things like a hobby or a pet. That's it.
We could just date within ourselves. And we promise not to dump each other ever.
But if we go out with one of them, that means we'll be stuck with him.
And how would two journalists get rid of this gene?
Roll.
So we go out with everyone we've ever been out with, and then we dump them.
Frankie, you were absolutely amazing. You were absolutely amazing, Al. Is there not another solution, one that is more practical?
Can I just ask, what does an executive producer do?
Well, in general, I think if you Google it or go on Wikipedia...
That's confusing.
That's confusing.
No, can I ask, what do you do?
well, again, because it's confusing, and I think there are so many executive producers out there, I think on a bigger production scale, these are the people who find finance, to finance the film. Basically anything involved with raising finance or either investing themselves or, finding investors for the film. That's the job of the executive producer, and then they rank above the producers because they also sometimes get involved with the film, sometimes not. I think in the independent film scale, a lot of the executive producers don't have to do anything but just support the film financially. I actually wanted to be more involved because I wanted to learn, the sort of hands-on approach of what it's like, and I went to the festivals with a team, and actually flew to LA with the producer of the film to find the sales agent. So that was actually a very interesting part to understand the film world and how it all works. And
it's really interesting because I'm always confused by it with executive producers. There seems to be...
I know. I was confused too, but that was just a great title.
Has that inspired you to produce your own film at all?
I've been having some thoughts, and definitely I think last year, lockdown, I actually had more time and read a few books on from script writing to actually producing, and actually I tried to write my own script. It's much more difficult than it seems. So maybe one day, but again, having seen it from sort of inside out, you realize how difficult it is, and there are so many pieces of the puzzle, and you need to actually assemble a really great team because you can't do it alone, and you really need very good professionals, experts who can help you to go from one stage to the other.
Athena, okay, just some practical stuff with crowdfunding. What elements do you need? What's the practical? How do you set up a campaign?
So you need to start thinking about setting up your Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the different platforms that you're going to need. So because once you've got the campaign, who do you give it to? So in all three campaigns, we sort of started like 2 weeks before, where you create a Facebook page, start inviting people to like it, start talking about the themes in the film, or start connecting with other people who might who align with that project, be it thematically or tonally or subject or cast or whatever. Twitter as well. So you start building a following, and then when you have the following, you launch your campaign. So for that, what you need is a video, And now you've got various choices. You can either do a little teaser that shows everyone, what this is, and actually you always need you talking to camera about what the project is. Because the truth is that people invest in you. They don't actually invest in the story. The story, every story can be great or not, but what is it about your passion that wants to make this story is really what people get hooked to. So when they see that, they go, oh, okay, I didn't realize, but that's the way in. So if you don't want to put yourself to camera, it's really hard because you're the thing that people are going to be attracted to. And when I say you, I mean the passion of the people involved. So you need a little teaser, can't be longer than probably, 2 minutes. And then you need some visuals. So tonally, what does it look like? And you can find these online. You need information, so content, what is, the story, a brief description, a synopsis, a log line. Do you have any cast attached to it? Do you have any crew attached to it? Some biogs, who are the team? Where is it going to be shot? And of course, how much do you need to shoot this? And where is the money that you are raising or hope to raise through crowdfunding going to be spent? So for example, it might be that your film costs, 35,000, and it's really hard to raise 35,000 on crowdfunding, but you're only going to spend, want to raise, say, 10,000, which is still really hard, but 10,000 is a more realistic figure to raise through crowdfunding, and it gives you that sense of like, I've got some of the money. So even a lot of the public funded films that come through BFI network also crowdfund, because then maybe they'll get 15,000, but that's not enough, and they'll need to raise another 5, another 10. And I think one of the reasons probably the BFI encourage that is because it really forces you, the filmmaker, to think about an audience. At the end of the day, you're making a film for someone to see, and you bring your audience along from these very early stages. These are going to be the people not only that put money into your film, but they're going to be the ones that are going to turn up to see it when it goes to festivals, be it online or be in presence. They're going to be the ones that maybe vote for an audience award. They will be the people that follow you. And then when you're ready to go for more feature funding, you kind of demonstrated you understand the relationship between film and audience. So it's not just your amazing talent that someone's going to be like wowed by. That idea of talent, I think, is sort of over described.
If I might sort of add to that, I think it's also once you've crowdfunded and once you've actually had this experience, it's also easier to then finance later the project, because people would be looking at, already that many people got interested, or like that many people have funded it. What is so special about it? I also want, a piece of that.
Yeah, because I suppose that thing of who puts in the money first. Yeah. No one wants to be that first person.
And what you're creating a dialogue about your work, creating a conversation.
No, which is great. We're going to have a little look at Losing Grace, what you used to raise money for that, because this was a very successful crowdfund, wasn't it? We'll talk about that in a minute. We're going to have a little look at this. This is a film that Athena has out at the moment that's winning lots of awards, doing very, very well. And this is the original little piece of promotional film that she created to raise money for it. Okay, so That was a little bit different to Southgate and Brighton, wasn't it? What fabulous actors you had in that as well.
We had an amazing lead. I don't know where we found her.
Yeah, I have no idea where you found her.
She's also a co-producer on the project.
Really?
Yeah. So that was really interesting, because I think with that one, I really wanted to. So we already had the director of photography attached to the project. And so it was really important for me to have a little bit of experience of working with her, because, I've never worked with Beatrice before. We talked about the project, and also I wanted to kind of get behind the camera and go, okay, well, what is this film going to feel like? What is the tone of it? And I think we only had like a morning, didn't we?
Where we did it in a morning, yeah.
Yeah, where we literally all three.
It's freezing.
Borrowed a camera and we just went to the nearest park. And I'd written, it was a page of script that I'd wrote for it, and then we went, because where that clip ends, we then open out, and then it's the three of us pitching for money. So we then come back into it. So there was a way of marrying, say, a tonal element of the film with us asking for money and talking about the project. So this was a project that had a very serious subject matter to it of domestic abuse. So we could sort of use the film as the platform to talk about those issues. So that one, although it was higher production values, still was a case of zero money, but having a very clear idea of going, okay, what can I shoot in 30 seconds that gives me a feeling for this film?
Because that's very clear. I mean, when you look at Southgate to Brighton, and then Losing Grace, they're completely different films, aren't they? But those two little clips didn't really cost any money to make.
No.
So actually, it's just a case of getting your idea out
Absolutely.
there.
And using your phone. Nowadays, we've got access to cameras, and it doesn't have to be amazing quality. It is about the content. And for the filmmaker, I think it's an amazing exercise to really hone in. What is your film? What is it really about? Why do you want to make it? Why does anyone care about it? And you need to be able to answer those questions and stand by them, because it's a long journey. Do you really want to make this? Because the truth is, it isn't the case of going, oh, I'm going to raise the money, go and make it. It's a 12-month project at least before you even start sending it anywhere. And so you've got to love it.
Yeah, no, it's really nice seeing those examples. Both of your films, seeing all of them, it's great. With you were saying about business, looking for money with businesses. What kind of companies would you approach?
Again, good question. Well, as I said, there are specific, development funds, and there are funds who are actually specialized in film, but there are not that many. And if you're looking for individual investors, again, it is a challenging job, because it would be, I think I mentioned it before, a passion project for someone.
Yeah.
So they have to be someone who's really interested and love film and want to participate. And again, the best way is to, go into networking events and just try to network as much as you can, because you never know who, might be, well, in times of COVID, it's difficult, but hopefully we're coming out of it. And then, all these events, because like London is a great place for it, because you have so many events which are sponsored by BFI and then BAFTAs, but also like, small individual ones where it's like filmmakers just mingling with the filmmakers and trying to help each other. And again, I think if you find a really good producer or somebody who's out and about, they like producers are the ones who actually good at negotiating and finding you these, people who are needed to support your project.
That's really interesting. So that leads me to my next question. The team behind the project, how important is that to you?
Definitely important, because again, there is so much that a director or a scriptwriter can do, and I think sometimes people are way too ambitious, thinking that they can do it all. I think later on, you start with just probably like a crowdfunding pitch, and then it probably develops into a short, and then luck, like hopefully, and if you have like a really good project, you can develop it into a big film and a full feature film. But then you definitely need a team who know what they're doing, because if you're trying to do it all by yourself, you delay your own timeline. And I think, people don't realize how many technical things, will be thrown at you, and again, because I think there is a different, people have different talents. And if you are great at, directing, or if you're great at script writing, it might not be necessarily that you're great at negotiating like a legal contract or something, hence you need those, producers and the support behind.
Oh, that's great. It's really good stuff here. Sadly, we're going to have to sort of wind up. So before we go, I want to hear, Athena, what's coming up for you? What's happening?
So with Losing Grace, that's going into festivals. It's doing really well. So, we're just keep submitting it and it gets in, so that's exciting. We're just now wrapping the sound edit, so that'll be hitting the festival market.
And what's Daughter?
Daughter's a short film that we shot in September, so that was
during lockdown.
During lockdown, the whole development went through lockdown. We had the script, so it was a script written by a writer called Joe Harper. So we'd been developing that for a while. We got shortlisted by Film London, and then I found a way that we can get it made, and it literally just happened that we were in lockdown. So we went into pre-production and thought, we had a little opening in September and went, let's go for it. And so we went and shot it, and now we're just wrapping the sound edit on that. Okay. And a couple of feature films that were in development.
And what are those?
So I've got one that's set in Cyprus called Xenos, where the script is written, and that got to Torino Development Lab. So it's had a bit of industry interaction. And another one is called Polly, which you and I are writing. So that was a project that looks at the plight of sex workers and how the law stands in their way to sort of help them, break out of sex work. So busy times.
Yeah, a couple of things going on.
Yeah, a couple of things. And a series as well.
Oh yeah, just another series.
Yeah. Well, you just got to keep working. You just don't know where anything's going to land, and you need to have that slate of projects as well. So you're not just waiting for one to come through, and because you might have like that meeting with someone like Daria, and you go, well, I'm not interested in that, but you have something else. So you as a filmmaker, you need to kind of be in that creative mode as well.
That's really interesting. And I know that we're supposed to wrap up. I just have to ask this. Is this something, if people are pitching a project, should they always have something else in the back pocket as well?
I think that definitely helps. It's the same, I think, rule if you're pitching like to sales agent, distributors, or, somebody to finance the project. Because if they don't like this particular idea, you're like, well, if you don't like this, actually, I have this in the background. Or like, and again, if you are approaching a sales agent who also can, fund your project, they are most of the time interested in looking at kind of a portfolio of what you're doing. Doesn't necessarily mean that it will finance it all together, but you basically increase your chances of one particular project getting picked.
I think also it's worth adding, because you're not looking like a one-show pony. You're in this for sustainability. It shows that you understand that this is an industry. It's not about your passion to tell one story, because that's really hard for anyone to actually. I think subconsciously people think you're so tied to that one story. Is there room for anyone else in there? Yeah. So I think it just shows a kind of understanding of the industry.
Oh, that's great. And what's happening with you now?
Well, again, because it's like sort of different angles. Love Type D, they are going to be released in May in the US, and then hopefully in other territories. So look out for that.
Fabulous.
Molinare as a post-production business, also developing and changing. And just wanted to say that it has historically been a place that supports independent filmmakers. So we always find, space and room for any kind of productions. And actually Love Type D, they helped us too. So we did a little bit of VFX there. And there's also like I'm working potentially with some development funds in the making. So it's
cool.
Different type of projects, but also a lot of exciting things.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, really exciting. Oh, both of you, thank you so much. It's been really brilliant stuff. So I hope that you've all been able to take something back from this. I hope you've been writing and making notes. And if you haven't, go back to the beginning, get pen and paper, okay? Thank you very, very much for watching. And we look forward to seeing you at our next SohoLIFF Spotlight. Thank you.